Kyle meets Ron Sexsmith. Ron Sexsmith's story is an interesting one indeed, and I jumped at the opportunity to have this interview with him when I heard he was coming to Madrid for a performance in support of his latest album. The final addition to the album was a song called Late Bloomer, which seems to summarize Sexsmith's outlook on life at the moment, as well as reflect on his career and his ambitions for the record itself. He sings, "I'm a late bloomer, I'm a slow learner, and I've heard the penny drop. I'm a small player with a tall order to come out on top. And without selling my soul, that's how a flower grows, and I'm a late bloomer." Most articles about him highlight his brilliance as a songwriter and how so many famous names in the music industry praise him and wonder why he isn't much more famous than he is. Uncut magazine calls Sexsmith a songwriter's songwriter. Elvis Costello says Ron Sexsmith has some of the purest seams of melody since Paul McCartney, another musician who praises his work and has even invited him for breakfast and a jam session in his home. Texas-based country rocker and producer Steve Earle says Sexsmith's consistency in writing melodies quite simply makes him jealous. The Canadian singer-songwriter is praised by many as one of the best songwriters of our time and acclaimed by the likes of Bob Dylan, Elton John, Chris Martin, Michel Bublé, Lucinda Williams, Ray Davies, and the list goes on. Sexsmith is the subject of a new film entitled Love Shines, currently in film festivals around the world, documenting his career and recent work with legendary producer Bob Rock, famous for his work with Metallica, Motley Crue, and Aerosmith. Sexsmith worked with Rock with hopes to record the album that will finally bring him the radio airplay and hitmaker status that has eluded him so far in his career. His new album, Long Player Late Bloomer, has since been released and Sexsmith is touring to support it. Originally, we planned to film a video of the interview from our radio studio here in Madrid, or at least a more controlled environment. But in the end, Ron was a bit late getting into town, so I went to his hotel. We recorded the interview you're about to hear over Ron's third cup of coffee of the day, shortly before heading to the venue for his concert on June 19th at the Dia de la Música Festival here in Madrid. I'm here with Ron Sexsmith, and Ron, you're in town in Madrid to play your first show in Spain for quite a while, I understand, right?
Since 2008, actually, yeah.
2008,
yeah.
Okay. But you've been here a few times on various concerts?
A few times, yeah. We've been, we did Barcelona a few years ago. It wasn't until a few years ago where we could come to Spain and play. It's just, I think, I had an album called Retriever that got some notice here, and before then I would never came because there was no one, not a lot of interest for me.
We discussed Ron's thoughts on Spain in general as a place to visit, the lifestyle, and his love for a good cup of coffee.
We all love Spain. I mean, they just really they know how to live here, I think.
Yeah.
You don't see people rushing around with giant mugs of coffee, and you know what I mean. You don't see people. Stressed out people. I mean, I don't know it that well. That's my impression.
Yeah, and I understand you're a big coffee drinker. I saw your film and you said you enjoy a good cup of coffee.
I drink too much coffee. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I mean, this is it's my third today, so it's not too bad.
Do you like the coffee in Spain?
Yeah, I'm not a fancy coffee drinker. I just get regular coffee, But yeah, I mean, I like coffee pretty much everywhere,
Ron is the subject of a new documentary called Love Shines, which is also the title of a song on his new record. The film is a collection of footage documenting his earlier career, but primarily focuses on following Sexsmith as he embarks on what has been called a last-ditch effort to achieve the radio hit that has eluded him so far in his career. After apparently almost giving up recording following a disappointing performance of his last record, Exit Strategy for the Soul, in 2008, the curtain is pulled back for a rare glimpse inside the process as Sexsmith works with legendary producer Bob Rock, famous for making hits with the likes of Metallica and Motley Crue. Sexsmith hopes to emerge from the recording sessions with a song that achieves commercial radio play. And with a cast including Elvis Costello, Steve Earle, Leslie Feist, Daniel Langlois, Bob Rock, and Kiefer Sutherland, the film documents Ron's working process and his struggle for mainstream success. Ron and I discussed the film, and first of all, whose idea it was to make it.
I never wanted to be in a movie or anything. I think the director, Douglas Arrowsmith, he got the idea about 7 years ago after seeing me play in London, England at the Jazz Cafe. And I don't remember this, but he told me he talked to me after the show about it. And I don't even really remember agreeing to it, but all of a sudden he was just kind of around, and in the beginning he wasn't around that much, but he was around sometimes filming. And I didn't know what kind of film he was trying to make. It wasn't until, I started working on the new album with Bob Rock that he was able to get funding, and then they were around all the time.
Ron is known as a pure songwriter. The film talks about Ron's lifestyle and how he doesn't have a washer and dryer in his home, a car, bicycle, or a mobile phone. And according to his wife, Ron's purpose on earth is to write songs. I asked Ron if he agrees with this comment by his wife.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I when I found that I could write songs, it was a real, lightning bolt kind of moment, because before then I really, I didn't know what I was going to do, and it just sort of gave, everything all of a sudden made sense for me, and I've just been trying to just focus on that ever since, I really believe that. I mean, that's kind of, I'm pretty useless in most areas of life,
Could you imagine yourself doing anything else?
I had to do other things while I was trying to make it, I could hold down a day job and stuff, and I was a courier, and I never really wanted to be anything else except maybe a detective at one point, when I was a kid.
Yeah, sure.
But other than that, no, I mean, I kind of envisioned this as a kid, I knew somehow, when I was like even 4 or 5, that's what I wanted to do, right? And I just couldn't imagine it not happening. I remember my parents telling me, you should have something to fall back on. Or I didn't want anything to fall back on because I felt if I did have something, I would be tempted to fall back on it, and then because I think a lot of people, they do give up after a while. And maybe if I'd been plugging away and nobody liked what I was doing or whatever, maybe I would have given up, because I think it's important not to be delusional either, but I was getting, early on, I was getting signs and feedback from people, that I was doing good work, and
absolutely.
I was also getting people that thought I was terrible too, but you need both, you know, so.
Well, Elvis Costello speaks very highly of you, and he's had you on his show, his Spectacle, and I saw some of the clips from that, and it was incredible, and to see how impressed, Elvis Costello, Sheryl Crow there, just being really blown away by your music. Elvis Costello also said that he felt maybe you suffer from being born out of time. And maybe if you had, maybe if you were in a different area, you would enjoy more radio success. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Yeah, maybe if I had been making these kind of records in the 70s, maybe I would have had more success. Yeah. But I don't regret being born when I was, because I got to hear all this great music that I love, And
of course, yeah.
I feel kind of bad for kids today, hearing the kind of stuff that they're listening to on the radio. Not to name names or anything, but it just sounds very robotic and very, juvenile. And I don't know. It's just. I think what I'm doing is not the most fashionable stuff. I remember even in the 90s when I first came out, it was mostly female songwriters who were doing well. And I remember Sarah McLachlan said, well, if Ron was a girl, he'd be doing better too. So, but I don't want to be a girl, and I don't want to, and I don't wish that I was born at any other time either. So.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. Now, you've worked with some very interesting producers. Not only Bob Rock, famous for all his work with Metallica and all these huge heavy bands, but also Daniel Langlois, who's done Bob Dylan and he's done U2 as well.
That's right.
And I found it interesting that you worked with Langlois on your first record, right? He did a song.
One song on the first
There's
record.
a Rhythm, right? It was done by Langlois. How did you get that relationship with Daniel Langlois and get your foot in the door to have that song done by him?
Well, kind of a long story, but I had a record before that called Grand Arpelaine. It was on cassette. It was an independent record, and I remember when I was still a courier, actually, he had got a copy of it. I think his sister gave him a copy of it. And I remember him getting my number somehow and calling my house when I was at work just to say that he really liked it, you know. And that was years before I got signed. And I remember, I think I even talked to him on the phone around that time. You know, so I kind of knew him already. And what happened was I made this record with Mitchell Froome. He produced the record, and the record company, they absolutely hated the record, you know.
Really?
And I didn't want to do it over. They wanted me to do the whole album over with Lanois, and I didn't want to because I loved the record we made. And I was trying to be loyal to Mitchell, who was, you know, we'd become really good friends while we made the record. And then I remember they said, well, just go to Quebec, work with Daniel. And then the idea was that I would really love it. And then they were trying to get me to do the whole thing over, you know. And I went to work with Daniel, but I was in a bad mood. And the whole thing kind of collapsed, to be honest. I mean, he ended up taking all the pictures for the album cover, you know, but the recording didn't actually go so well.
Lanois did. Lanois took the pictures.
He took all the photos,
Okay.
and I was, but like I said, I was in this bad mood. I just wanted my record to come out. I didn't want to have to be doing more recording. And so it kind of collapsed, and then I had to apologize to Daniel and go back in the studio with him and finish that one song. And it came down to, they said, well, this has to go on the record because we love this, at least this one song has to go on the record.
Yeah.
But I had already recorded There's a Rhythm with Mitchell, so it was a bit of a tug of war going on. And I said, well, can we just put it at the end, like as a bonus track, and then then you can be happy, you have your version on it. And I like the Lanois version too, but it didn't fit with the rest of the album. It didn't make sense to put it on.
Right.
And so we just put it on at the end, I would love to make an actual full album with Lanois sometime, you know. We actually tried on 2 separate occasions to make a record, and both times he was pulled away by something else, you know, like a U2 record or something more, you know, lucrative than working with me or whatever. But I would love to work with him.
Wow. Do you think that'll happen in the future?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what I would have to do to make that happen. You know, they had a tribute concert for me the other night in Toronto.
I read about that.
And the first performance was Lanois, actually. He'd sent a video doing, actually, There's a Rhythm.
Okay.
And it was a really beautiful version. I mean to call him and just tell him to thank you. But I would love, you know, maybe when I talk to him, you know, I could, because I do have a lot of new songs written, and maybe he would be interested. I don't know. I would like that.
With Ron being known for his songwriting abilities, while I'm sure it's a question he often gets asked, I asked him to outline the songwriting process.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain because every song is kind of, you know, it's coming from a different place, you know. I mean, sometimes you have a melodic idea, you know, other times you have a whole complete lyric and no idea how the music's going to go. And sometimes it's a bit of both, you know. I've had songs that have started, on this new album, there's a song called Love Shines that all I had was the first line, which was in every nowhere town there are somewhere dreams, and that's all I had. And I just kept thinking about that, and then I got a melody for that, and I kept singing that one line over and over for weeks, you know.
Wow.
And then, you know, you just eventually you start to figure out where it can go, and you try different things out. But it's kind of yeah, you know, it's kind of it's sort of mysterious, really, you know. The whole I don't know where the ideas come from, you know. They just sort of, you get something will just spring into your head, but then the sort of craft side of it comes into play, and you have to figure out how to take it somewhere, you know. So but it's I always find it kind of kills the sort of mystery a little bit to talk about it, you know, because ultimately it's just like most people's jobs. You just have to work away at it until you finish it. But so I don't really know what to say about that.
Throughout his career, Ron has received praise from some of the biggest names in the music business. He's had breakfast with Paul McCartney and even jammed with him in the former Beatles' home. He's also received a few phone calls from Elton John. I asked him what it was like to get a call praising his work from one of his idols.
Yeah, I talked to him a few times, but the last time he called was after I made an album called Time Being. And I'd been out on the road, and it was a real, it was a rough tour. You know, we'd just been touring the U.S., and, you know, my last 2 albums didn't really do very well, and so it was kind of, you know, it was a hard tour because we were playing these places and we weren't getting a lot of people, and I was really proud of that record. And so when I got home, after about I was away for about a month and a half. I got home, walked in the door, and I checked my phone messages, and the first one was from Elton John, and it was really, and he would say, well, we love the album and all this kind of stuff, and it was just really like perfect timing to get that call,
Get your spirits up.
Yeah, and and I was a member of his fan club when I was a kid, so I mean, I've loved them all along, and I've never really stopped. I have all his recent albums, and even the ones that weren't so good in the 90s and the 80s, But the last few I've really liked, though, the last 4 or 5.
Great. I'm wondering, what's your favorite song of yours? What's your favorite Ron Sexsmith song?
It's usually something new, but I always think I have a song called "Seem to Recall" that I really like.
I like that song a lot as well. Yeah.
And we opened that with the show the other night with that song, actually, and we hadn't played it in a while, and I'd sort of forgotten how much I liked singing that song.
Great. Could you maybe name one song that you had that you didn't write but maybe you wish you had?
Well, that's a tough one. So many. True Love Ways by Buddy Holly. I wish I could have written so many like Randy Newman songs, oh man, I'm a big fan of Ray Davies, so I would have loved to have written something like Days by Ray Davies or something like Autumn Almanac,
Great.
Anything, that's usually how I rate a songwriter, is by how many songs they've written that I wished I could have written.
Yeah.
And that's Lightfoot, Leonard Cohen, all those guys, they're my heroes. John Lennon's great.
Coldplay's Chris Martin sang a duet with Ron on his 2001 album Cobblestone Runway, and Ron's songs have been covered by many well-known artists. His song Secret Heart alone has been covered and recorded by Rod Stewart, Feist, Nick Lowe, and others. I asked Ron about how he feels about other artists doing versions of his songs.
It seems to happen more and more as I go along. Emmylou Harris has just done Hard Bargain. Tom Jones did God Loves Everyone recently.
Oh, wow.
Didn't make it on his record though, but I have a recording of him doing it. It's just it's sort of a bonus, really. When you because I try to write songs that can be covered. That aren't so. I like the lyrics to be pretty universal so that people can relate to them and get behind them. And that's something. That's kind of the thing you hope for when you're a songwriter. Is even after you're dead, you're hoping people will keep doing your songs. And it's kind of this weird. I don't know. It's almost an ego thing. You want to leave something behind after you're dead. And I'm sure that when I'm dead, I won't be concerned whether somebody's doing my song or not. But it's kind of why you do it in a weird way. You want to be remembered. It's so kind of something sad about that.
It's time now to put today's artist to the test with Kyle's Spanish Trivia. Ole!
I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Not related to yourself or your music. I was just thinking about asking you a couple questions.
All right.
A little bit of a challenge here.
Yep.
About Spain.
Okay.
If you're up for it.
Yeah, let's try it.
So the first category, Ron Sexsmith, is sports. Now, Real Madrid is one of the most famous football teams in the world. Now, there is a second team in Madrid, a bit more of the working class team, and in fact, they play near here. Do you know what they're called?
I don't.
Okay, that's Atlético de Madrid.
That's the name of the soccer team.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, the soccer team, yeah. Okay, round 2, vocabulary.
Okay.
How do you say party in Spanish?
Oh, fiesta?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go, 5 points.
Nice.
Nap.
Siesta.
There you go.
Right.
You're 2 for 2. Wine.
Oh, I know that. It's
Starts with a V.
Yeah, it's not vino, is it?
Vino. There you go.
Okay,
there you go.
Right.
Good morning.
Oh, buenos dias.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bull.
Oh, I know that. Toro.
Toro. There you go.
Yeah.
And the last one, specifically for you, song.
Oh, can't. Starts with a C, right?
Yeah, you almost had it.
Can't.
Canción.
Cancion. Yes.
And in Madrid, in Spain, they would say canción.
Cancion, yeah, because they do that's like Barcelona.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, Cancion.
All right. Another one. general question, final question for all the points. Do you know who Naranjito is? Naranjito.
Naranjito. He's not a politician, is he?
No, he's a fictitious character. Doesn't really exist.
Okay. From what story? Is that from Don Quixote or something?
No, it was from. Well, I'll tell you then.
Okay.
He was the mascot for the 1982 Football World Cup.
Oh.
And he was an orange. He was a little cartoon orange.
Oh.
Because orange, the word in Spanish for orange is naranja. And anytime you say ito, it means little. So he's like little orange, and he's like a little cartoon orange with arms and legs.
Oh, nice.
Naranjito.
Nice.
So if you look him up on the internet, you'll find videos of Naranjito.
Okay, I will.
Yeah,
I'll look
yeah.
that up. Cool.
Great. Well, there you go. Thanks, Ron. Another
Didn't do
thing,
too bad, yeah.
if you have one, you did all right, especially with the vocabulary.
Okay.
You're doing all right.
All
But
right.
Ron, I want to thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Thanks.
It's
Yeah,
been
nice
a pleasure.
talking to you, yeah.
So Ron Sexsmith, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Thank you
Cheers.
very much.
I'd like to thank Ron Sexsmith for taking the time to give us this exclusive interview, and to our friends at PIAS Spain for making it possible. Ron's great new record is called Long Player Late Bloomer, and it's available now. Keep following Vaughan TV's social media channels for more interviews coming soon.